With so many options available to sell your business, you might be wondering which one is the right fit for you. Welcome or welcome back. My name is Christina Scalera, and recently I sold my first successful business using an online brokerage. And today I'm going to explore some of the options that I considered and why you could do the same or why you should do the same, and would I recommend the brokerage that I went with? I'm still thinking about that one. If you're new here, you're right in the midst of my series about what it's like to sell your online business, especially if it's some kind of online store, which is what I usually talk about in these videos. However, we've taken a slight detour lately because the store isn't there anymore. It is now in the hands safely of its new owner, who is very much enjoying growing it in the way that they see fit. And I am getting to explore some more creative pursuits in my life that I hope to go into on this channel in more detail in future videos. So make sure you're subscribed, give that little tap to the like button, and share this video with a friend, maybe even leave a comment below. All of those things are so helpful. And I know it's annoying every time someone brings it up on YouTube, but we keep saying it because we keep seeing the views come in and the likes just don't follow all the time. So why are you watching our videos to the end, but you're not hitting the like button? Please help us out. All right, so I'm going to cover 3 options in today's video, from empire flippers to Flippa to a private brokerage. These are all 3 wonderful options for you if you're considering selling your online business. And before we get into it, you have to think of these brokerages as a real estate agent. So you can, of course, sell your home by yourself, but there's a lot of complications that could come along with that. There's not going to be anybody to advocate on your behalf if the buyers have questions or if something goes wrong. If you've never sold a house before, it's probably not a great idea to do it by yourself the first time, just because you don't know if you should accept the offers that are coming in, if they're low, if they're high, normal. You don't know how to create interest and excitement or find the buyer pool for selling your house. And so your business is no different. And in fact, your business is probably going to be similarly priced in terms of valuation on the marketplace as you would sell a house. So a couple $100,000s, maybe even in the millions. And while I have friends that have successfully sold their businesses, typically to a partner where they're trying to get out of the business and the other partner buys them out, or even to someone that they've met through coaching or masterminds, that's why networking is so critical and important. My business just wasn't going to be a good fit for anybody that I knew, and nobody in my personal life was really approaching me about taking over that business for a fee. So I decided to be proactive and go out there and see what kind of valuation I could get. And if you've been following along for a little while, you know that that's all I really intended on doing, is figuring out how much my business was worth and making a cute little YouTube series about it. I didn't think it was going to be as comprehensive as this because I didn't think I was going to sell my business. But I ended up getting a great valuation that I was really excited about and went with it. I wanted to see how far I could ride that train, and it turns out I rode it all the way to a sale. So if you are thinking about selling a business, there are 3 main brokerages that you are probably considering at this point. The first one that may have been on your radar is called Empire Flippers. And they've been around for quite a while, over 10 years, and they've been there to grow up with the internet, if you will. So they've had many iterations of their own service, but mainly they are a brokerage that helps connect buyers and sellers. And their unique value proposition, like their unique selling point compared to the other 2 I'm going to talk about today, is that they really focus on quality of the businesses that they list and also quality of the buyers that they find. So if you value a shortcut, albeit an expensive one, then Empire Flippers might be your best bet. Now let's look at some of the pros and cons of working with Empire Flippers. And spoiler alert, I cannot go into these without revealing that this is the brokerage that I ended up working with in order to sell my online store. So it's also the platform that I have the most experience with and can speak most knowledgeably about in this video, and any comments or questions you have below. So some of the pros of working with Empire Flippers were that they were always very professional, and I really appreciated the level to detail that they took in order to evaluate my business, not just to find a good buyer, but also to value it fairly, because I had previously just kind of kicked the tires around the year before, if you saw my other video, which I'll link below. And I hadn't gotten a valuation that I was really impressed with, despite having a record profit and revenue year in 2021. Really didn't have many high hopes for the valuation I was going to get back from Empire Flippers. And the first valuation they sent me was like, okay. And I'm not sure what happened internally, but I sent them a few extra things, just like a few extra assets, a few extra sales months, and they ended up like adding 30% to the valuation. And that really sent me over the edge. I was like, yes, let's move forward. Let's post this for sale. I'm actually up for it if you can sell it at this price. They're like, well, usually we don't sell it at this price. Usually it takes about, 90 days to get some really good bites on your business. My business was sold in 30 days. So that might be a different discussion to have about Empire Flippers. Maybe they priced it a little too low because I got some really great offers and it was sold very quickly. So all in all, the pros of working with Empire Flippers was that they had really good attention to detail, a very good buyer pool, very vetted and reputable, because they do require their buyers to submit income verification or at least proof of funds. So not everybody can see your business. This was also important for me because I needed that extra privacy. I have some people that have just been like watching me, like those like little sus people in the corner that are watching you, whatever. So I didn't want them to see everything I was doing, and I didn't want them to know that my business was up for sale because I was doing this more as an experiment at first, and I didn't want them to like take that and nefariously do anything with it. Whatever, they're copycats. They can just, I don't know. Now they'll have to like creep on someone else. So anyway, it meant that the people that were actually getting to see my business listing, which had some very naked numbers and behind the scenes kind of proprietary stuff on the listing, it meant that each and every one of those people had shown a bank account that had enough money in it to buy my business. And that was important because, well, I knew a lot of anybody who was like creeping, they wouldn't have that. But I also knew that that would only bring the highest quality of buyer, and I was right. So I would say overall, the pros of working with Empire Flippers is that it's professional, they are well known, they have a good reputation, and as a result, they have the highest quality buyer pool that's out there in a short amount of time. Now, I'm not saying that someone else couldn't get you the same amount for your business in a longer period of time, but I think they shortcut it because so many people are paying attention to their marketplace, but only the people that are qualified to buy can actually see your exact listing. Now let's talk about some of the cons, because these are some of the things that I think most people won't tell you, and I couldn't find any videos that included this information, so here you go. The biggest, most glaring con was that I didn't feel like I was very well represented as a seller, because while the buyers all had a dedicated agent to support them through the entire process, I just had a channel. And I think they just have this so like, if you've ever bought a Tesla, it's like whoever's answering it. It's not like one dedicated person answering it. Similar in the Empire Flippers channel, it's just like whoever answers it first. But I think that led to a lack of accountability. So sometimes I would get answers like 12 hours, 24 hours after I asked. And that did not feel good for me. It also didn't feel good that when I showed up to calls with potential buyers, they were represented by this like buyer agent who was helping to find them their perfect business. But I didn't have anybody on my side. And Empire Flippers told me, no, like that's actually your advocate there to help you. And I was like, I don't really feel like that's the case, especially when I'm asking questions, they're not getting answered in a timely manner. And this person has someone dedicated that they can communicate with, presumably call on the phone, and I couldn't. Another thing that I didn't like about Empire Flippers is that they didn't listen to me. Like when I told them what I was leaving my business for, like why I was interested in selling it, they listed a totally different reason. It was something like the seller's moving on to better opportunities. Like what? Who wants to buy a business where someone has better opportunities than what they're selling? And that wasn't even the reason why I was considering selling it. So it took a call. Again, I didn't have like a specific person that was like dedicated to my account. So I had to like call the last few numbers that had called me, and like one of them went to someone who was able to answer and connect me and get that listing updated. They also had a couple other things that were off on my listing. Like some of the numbers were wrong. Some of the things that it said were wrong. And again, I had to call and like ask someone to change that because nobody was responding to me in the chat channel. So that really gave me a little bit of a bad taste. I mean, it wasn't anything that overall affected the value or like the cash that I eventually received, but it did just like kind of burn me a little bit. I even debated not even mentioning them in any of these videos because I was like, can I recommend them? I think yes, but also you have to know what my experience was like, and that was part of it. So another glaring con with Empire Flippers is not once did I ever interact with a female. Everybody on their team appears to be male, and it's a very male-dominated energy. That felt a little bit weird to me. And what was really funny is that they had one person who emailed me and their name was Kristen something. And I was like, oh, finally a woman, like I just want to talk to a girl, like get a girl's perspective, whatever. And it was a dude. And then another person emailed me. They were representing one of the buyers that I was interested in talking with, and their name was Kelly. And so again, I was like really excited. The potential buyer was a woman, and that was the only woman I interacted with in the entire process. But we get on the call, and Kelly joins the call, and he's like, "Hi," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So again, no women working here. Noted. Cool. So that was just kind of like the ick, the ick. And I didn't like that. But I'm also not confident that given what I've learned since then about this industry of buying and selling businesses, that there's that many women in it generally. So yes, it's a problem, but it's like also a bigger problem than just at Empire Flippers. And then finally, the biggest drawback of working with Empire Flippers was obviously the amount of money that they took to sell my business. So they took close to 15% of the actual money that I got for my business. So just imagine the amount I got for my business. Unfortunately, I can't disclose that, but just imagine like that amount minus 15%, and that's what I actually got to see. Then I had to take taxes out and all that kind of stuff. So it was a pretty big chunk of change, especially when we're going to compare that to what Flippa charges or what your private brokerage could charge. However, I did get the highest valuation at Empire Flippers, so that 15% more or less made up for itself. I think I just didn't enjoy paying the 15% each time because of the issues that I had communication-wise and also like morally as a woman. The dudes watching this are going to be like, "I don't get what the big deal is," and the women are going to be like, "Say it, girl." I also really hesitated to affiliate for Empire Flippers because I didn't want this video to be biased. I think you can tell from my emotion and how I still am a little salty about some things that I've tried to make it as honest as possible, but I do have an affiliate link. So if you are considering selling with Empire Flippers and you want to sell, click through that link, let them know I referred you. That would be helpful. And maybe I can make back some of the 15%. Maybe I can be part of the woman's solution to their male problem. That will be linked below for you down in the description. Now, another brokerage I considered selling through was Flippa. And this one's even older than Empire Flippers and has a very different business models. So where Empire Flippers does all the legwork for you, they really act like your real estate agent. Flippa is kind of more like the for sale by owner, where you pay for a listing and they take like a 4% finder's fee when someone does have a successful sale of their business. So if I were to sell a business for say like 100 grand, I would pay about $500 to get it listed in the marketplace. And then if that business were to sell, I would owe Flippa $4,000 based on the 4% fee that they take, their success fee. So obviously that's very different than like the $15,000 I would have had to pay for Empire Flippers had it been the same amount of money that it sold for. More than likely though, because Empire Flippers has that better buyer pool, they would have listed it for like $150,000 and then I would have netted more even though the commission's more. So in my experience, that kind of leveled out, and that really wasn't something that was appealing to me because I would rather pay for better quality service with a higher commission than lower quality service, less support with something that's a little bit more DIY, especially for this first time I've ever sold my business, because I didn't know exactly what would go into the exact process and how long things would take. And, I needed a reputable escrow, which is basically like that holding account between the buyer and seller. So that was all something I could get at Empire Flippers. And while Flippa has an escrow service and things like that, it just didn't seem like it was as robust. And they tend to have a little bit more problems as far as scams and people that are trying to rip people off on the Flippa marketplace versus everything is vetted from the sellers to the buyers on Empire Flippers, which is why that was a lot better of a sell to me. So the pro of Flippa is also kind of a con, which is that it is a lot less expensive to sell your business through Flippa than Empire Flippers. But the con, the drawback to that, the reason it's not as expensive is because you don't get all that handheld support, albeit with slow communication, that you would have gotten from something like Empire Flippers. I think one big difference too between Flippa and Empire Flippers is if you are trying to buy a business, Flippa could potentially be more exciting for you because pretty much everything on Empire Flippers is already profitable, producing revenue, pretty hands off, and not really a diamond in the rough. Like they've already culled through all of the crap and they found the diamonds and they've listed them. On Flippa, they haven't necessarily culled through the crap because anybody can list there. So there are more listings and there's more to sort through. That can both be a good and bad thing, depending on where you're at if you want to buy. Now, as a seller, I didn't want to be thrown into that pool and have a lot of tire kickers who probably are used to getting rejected or no response because there's just a lot more junk swirling around where anybody can enter the marketplace versus it being vetted first. Another unique feature of Flippa versus the other options that I'm going over today is that they actually have an auction feature. So you can auction off your site, presumably if you need to make some faster cash. So if you've watched my other videos about how to actually prepare your business for sale and you have it all spun off, you're ready to make that extra quick cash flow before maybe a big life decision like a marriage or a house purchase or something, that would be a really good way to get that fast cash injection at a very reasonable market valuation. It might not be the highest, but it also isn't going to be the lowest because it's sold at auction. So you have a fair market price attributed to the sale of your business. All in all, I didn't end up working with Flippa, so I don't know if I could recommend them or not. But I do think that they would be helpful for someone who's just kind of trying to test the waters, see what kinds of people are out there, but also know that if you list with Flippa, just take it with a grain of salt. This could be your starting point to decide where to eventually sell your business if you don't really get some good action in those first like 30 to 90 days. One other thing I forgot to mention is that Empire Flippers actually asked me not to list my business anywhere else for up to 90 days because if it had not sold after 90 days, they were like, yeah, sure, go find another buyer somewhere. We understand you have to take care of yourself. But if it sells within 90 days, then we obviously take the commission and you have to pay that because we found the buyer for you within a reasonable amount of time. I thought that was really fair. I don't see that as a pro or a con, but wherever you list, whether it's Empire Flippers, Flippa, or a private brokerage, there might be some kind of constraint on where and when you can also list your business in a parallel marketplace. This is kind of like the MLS if you think about it. So if your house is on like Craigslist and then also the MLS, it could get really confusing for people who are shopping around and they're not really sure if like, is the house on Craigslist legit? Is the MLS off? Like, is this not actually for sale? So it made sense to me to list with one brokerage at a time just to keep things clean and make sure that a buyer had full confidence in that decision to purchase your business from you. Finally, we have private brokerages, and these are really helpful for the people that have a very, very high valuation on their company, like many, many tens of millions of dollars. You would not be working with like an Empire Flippers or a Flippa in that circumstance. And I think that was the mistake that I made because even though I got a very healthy valuation and purchase price for my business, it wasn't like tens of millions of dollars that I was selling my business for. The brokerage that I had originally approached about selling my business back in 2021, they were more like this private brokerage that was used to dealing with these very high valuation companies. So it made sense in hindsight why they were so meh about the company that I brought to them for valuation. Each brokerage is going to have different methods for valuing your company, so you could get wildly different valuations depending on what they're looking at and what kind of buyers they typically tend to attract. And what I actually learned, this was very interesting, was that when my business was listed on Empire Flippers, I could see who was like unlocking my business and so they could view the full listing. And most of the people who unlocked it were actually these private brokerages that were then sharing the listing with one of their clients. So it's almost like there were two middlemen in that circumstance. Now, the buyer I ended up working with did not have that situation going on. They came to Empire Flippers, I came to Empire Flippers, and Empire Flippers was that middleman. But for the private brokerages, they're likely also adding to the cost that you're going to pay as a buyer, and they're probably also taking away from the profit you're going to make as a seller, because unless they have a really, really good, robust, like Oppenheim group selling sunset type of networking community, they're probably not going to be getting you the best amount of money for like those lower priced businesses because they're going to have to sift through those listings just like you would. And so while it might be worth it if you're like buying a business and you don't have time so they can sift through that on their own, if you're actually selling a business, I don't think you would have had any better or different of an experience other than maybe the faster the communication that I was talking about. They also are likely to take a pretty hefty fee. So just be aware that their fees are going to be comparable, if not a little bit more than what I ended up paying to Empire Flippers, because the benefit of working with something like Empire Flippers is they have a whole team and lots of employees that are dedicated to supporting the sale of your business versus a private brokerage, which usually only has a handful of people, which means that all of their incomes are dependent on getting the commission from the sale of your business. So that sale has to be pretty significant and their commission has to be pretty nice off the chunk of change that you get for the sale. Private brokerages can be found pretty much anywhere. So these are oftentimes the people that you see that have their own podcasts, that are advertising how to sell your business and like have podcasts and YouTube channels all about selling your business, because they're trying to attract your attention as the business owner so that they can then sell your business before you get it on one of these bigger marketplaces where they then have to shop instead of going directly to you. Basically, I would use Empire Flippers if you're a little bit more hands-off, you have other things going on, as I did. I have this YouTube channel, my coaching, all my clients. So I didn't really have the time to like go out as a full-time job and sell my business. I also wasn't interested in that. I was more interested in the process until I wasn't. And Flippa would be a better fit for someone who is a little more DIYer. Maybe your business is not as valuable, like it's not in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's more like in the tens of thousands of dollars. And if you just want a quick sale of your business, they also have that auction feature. Finally, a private brokerage is probably going to be best for those of you who are listing your business at 5 to 10 million and up. And you probably wouldn't be watching this video either. So thanks for watching if you are. I just feel like they're like someone who's running a company of that size is probably a little too busy to watch like YouTube. What's most important here is that you explore all your options. I really do wish that I had explored a little bit more. I feel like I had a good, dip in the waters of like selling your business, but I actually in hindsight could have explored a little bit more, maybe gotten a couple more quotes from private brokerages. But again, I got a valuation I was really happy with, and that was really it for me. I didn't need to do a lot more digging, especially after my previous conversation in 2021. But do your own research, make sure that you are talking with people along the way, and don't just go with the first salesy schmoozy brokerage that tends to take you under their wing. I hope this is helpful, and I have a whole series about how to sell your business, how to prepare it for sale, what you should be doing, all that good stuff. In a recent video, I also broke down how I knew it was the time to actually go forward and sell my business. So I'll see you over in that video, and for everyone else, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.